A hand came through my window screen when I was 17. 6 months later, roses started appearing in my car. A year after that, my roommate introduced me to her new boyfriend, and that's when I realized he'd been watching me the entire time. It was the summer after graduation, and Jennifer was up late in her bedroom packing for a camping trip with her friends. She had her window open to let in the breeze while she folded clothes, and that's when she saw it, a hand, slowly reaching through the gap in her window screen. Jennifer screamed, and the hand immediately pulled back and disappeared into the darkness. She was frozen, her heart pounding. Maybe it was just her younger brother trying to prank her. She ran to his room, but found him sitting there playing video games, completely confused about why she was freaking out. They called the police, who came out and searched the entire area around the house, but they didn't find anyone. The officers warned Jennifer and her parents to make sure all their windows and doors were locked at night. But her mother had this gut feeling that whoever it was would come back. And as it turns out, a mother's intuition is rarely wrong. Her mom decided to wait outside on the back porch, just watching. After about 20 minutes, she saw him, a man dressed all in black, standing in their backyard. He was hiding behind a tree, slowly making his way toward Jennifer's window. Her mother yelled out at him, and he immediately took off running into the night. Police came back out again, searched everywhere, but once again found absolutely no trace of him. After that night, Jennifer never opened that window again, not even the curtains. Her parents installed motion-detecting lights all around the house, and thankfully, that seemed to be the end of it. About 6 months later, Jennifer and her best friend got an apartment together downtown. They were both so excited. It was their first place outside of their parents' homes, and they were finally living in the city like they'd always dreamed. The only downside was that the building only had street parking, which meant Jennifer had to park her car on the street every night. After a few weeks of living there, Jennifer came out one morning to find her car had been broken into. But here's the weird part. Nothing was taken. Instead, there was a single red rose placed on her passenger seat. It creeped her out for sure, but she figured it might have been meant for someone else's car or maybe just some weird random thing. She promised herself she'd be more careful and try to park in well-lit areas close to the building entrance. But it was hard to get those good spots, and she often had to park farther away, and that's when things started escalating. Jennifer's car was broken into at least once a week. Most of the time, there would be a flower left on her seat, but one time, it was a pair of men's underwear. Another time, it was a bag of Tootsie Rolls, which was strange because those were her absolute favorite candy. That detail made Jennifer start to wonder if this person actually knew her personally. She began looking at everyone differently, becoming suspicious of people she knew, people at work, even neighbors in her building. The apartment had a shared laundry room in the basement, and one day Jennifer went down to grab a load she'd left in the dryer. As she started folding her clothes, she realized something was wrong. All of her bras and underwear were completely gone. Someone had stolen them. By the time the first letter arrived in her mailbox, Jennifer had already started making plans to move somewhere else. The letter was handwritten and described a love for her that had supposedly been going on for years. Whoever wrote it included specific details that proved they had been watching Jennifer very closely. Things about her daily routine, places she went, things she liked. Not long after that, Jennifer was able to arrange for another friend to take over her lease, and she moved in with a different friend on the complete other side of the city. This new place was much better. It was a secured building with an underground parking garage that was only accessible to tenants with key fobs. She felt so much more secure there, and even though it cost more money, it was absolutely worth it for the peace of mind. Things were quiet for a few months. Jennifer was finally starting to feel safe again, and then her roommate Ashley got a boyfriend. There was something off about Ashley's new boyfriend from the very beginning, and Jennifer and their other friends picked up on it immediately. For one thing, he had reached out to Ashley first on social media, which was unusual. Another thing was that Matt was really good-looking, like model-level attractive. And while Ashley was a wonderful person with an amazing personality, she wasn't typically the type you'd expect someone who looked like him to pursue. Ashley was absolutely thrilled, though. She'd never really had a serious boyfriend before, and she genuinely felt like Matt was her Prince Charming, like something out of a fairy tale. But Jennifer thought he was weird and creepy from the very first moment they met. She'd actually deleted her main Facebook account when the stalking initially began, but she created a fake dummy account just so she could look into Matt more. What she found was suspicious. It didn't look like he actually knew any of his Facebook friends in real life. There were only pictures of himself, and all of the information on his profile was super vague. Jennifer and her friends tried to gently discourage Ashley from seeing Matt. He technically hadn't done anything wrong that they could point to, but he was just so strange and gave off such weird vibes. But whenever they brought it up, Ashley would immediately get defensive and completely shut down the conversation. She didn't want to hear anything negative about him. Matt started spending more and more time at the apartment, practically living there. Jennifer found herself making up any excuse she could think of to avoid coming home. She'd stay late at work, go to the gym, meet friends for dinner, anything to not be there when he was around. One day, Jennifer came home from work and found Matt sitting on the couch alone drinking a beer. Ashley had been called into work for an emergency shift, and she'd told Matt he could just hang out at the apartment and wait for her. Jennifer had absolutely no desire to spend any time alone with him, so she grabbed a beer from the fridge and some snacks, said a quick hello, and headed straight to her bedroom, shutting the door behind her. About 30 minutes later, there was a knock on her door. It was Matt. He suggested they watch some TV together and get to know each other better, since they both loved Ashley and would probably be spending more time around each other. Jennifer reluctantly agreed and came out to the living room. She sat on the opposite end of the couch and tried to focus entirely on whatever movie was playing on the TV, not wanting to engage in conversation with him at all. But at one point, she glanced over at Matt and he was just staring at her, not watching the movie, just staring directly at her with this smile on his face. Jennifer snapped at him. "What?" He kept smiling and said, "I just can't believe it." "Believe what?" Jennifer asked, completely confused and uncomfortable. He said nothing. He just turned back to the TV and kept watching the movie like nothing had happened. Jennifer had no idea what he was talking about, but that interaction made every single hair on her body stand up. Something about it felt deeply wrong. She made up an excuse about being tired, went back to her room, and locked the door. Another month or so went by, and Jennifer had managed to avoid being home for much beyond sleeping and showering. Matt practically lived there at that point. He'd even brought a bunch of his stuff and moved it into Ashley's room. Jennifer really didn't want to move again, but she was seriously beginning to look at other apartments and housing options. She couldn't keep living like this. Then came Ashley and Matt's 6-month anniversary. Jennifer came home to find a huge, beautiful bouquet of flowers sitting on their kitchen table with a card propped up next to it. The card had already been opened. Ashley must have read it before leaving for work. Jennifer's curiosity got the better of her, so she picked up the card and opened it to read what Matt had written. And the second she looked at it, her heart started beating so hard she thought it might explode out of her chest. Without even reading the actual words Matt had written, Jennifer immediately recognized the handwriting. It was exactly the same as the handwriting from the letter her stalker had sent her. She'd kept those letters as evidence, and she ran to her desk and dug them out to compare them. The handwriting was unique and identical. The same loops, the same slant, the same way certain letters connected. There was absolutely no doubt. Matt was the stalker. He'd been the one breaking into her car, leaving flowers, stealing her underwear, sending those letters. He'd been watching her for years, and somehow, he'd gotten close to her by dating her roommate. Jennifer's hands were shaking as she immediately called the police. While they were on their way, she called Ashley at work and begged her to come home right away, telling her it was an emergency but not explaining why over the phone. She was terrified to tell her the truth because she knew it was going to absolutely shatter Ashley's heart. When the police arrived, they took a full statement from Jennifer and looked at all the evidence she'd kept. The letters, photos of the roses in her car, everything. Then they went to Ashley's workplace to get more information from her and ended up having to break the news to her there. Apparently, Ashley completely broke down. And then, even though the police specifically told her not to contact Matt or say anything to him yet, Ashley called him right after and left him a furious, screaming voicemail confronting him about everything. Matt completely disappeared after that, vanished into thin air. The police started investigating his background, and what they found was disturbing. There was no Matt or anyone matching his description working at the place he'd told Ashley he worked. Ashley had never been to his apartment, because he'd told her he was temporarily staying with friends while trying to save money for a trip to Europe they were planning. His family supposedly lived out of state, and Ashley had never met a single friend of his because he'd claimed he'd had a falling out with all of them because he was choosing to spend so much time with her instead. It was all lies. Complete fabrications. Ashley had been dating a total stranger for 6 months. For all they knew, Matt might not have even been his real name, but he had left something behind, a duffel bag in Ashley's room that was supposedly full of gym clothes. When the police searched it, they found the gym clothes, but in one zippered compartment, there were about 10 photographs of Jennifer. All of them were taken from far away, like he'd been following her with a zoom lens, except for one. One photo showed Jennifer asleep in her bed, and the sheets in the photo were the current sheets on her bed, which meant it had been taken at this apartment recently probably before she'd started religiously locking her bedroom door every night. A few of the other pictures dated back to before the incident at her parents' house with the hand in the window, which was further proof that he'd been stalking her for years. Also in the bag were 2 pairs of Jennifer's missing underwear. She couldn't help but shudder thinking about what he'd done with all the rest of them. There was also a Starbucks lid that had her red lipstick marks on it. She vaguely remembered losing that lid a few months back, and there was a delicate necklace she hadn't even noticed was missing. The police launched a full investigation, but they never tracked him down. Matt had completely disappeared, leaving almost no digital footprint. No real social media, no permanent address, nothing. Jennifer was offered a job opportunity overseas shortly after, and she took it without hesitation. She needed to get as far away as possible. But ever since then, Jennifer has deleted all her social media accounts. She keeps a very low profile, barely shares anything about her life online, and she constantly looks over her shoulder wherever she goes. Because part of her continues to worry that one day, Matt might resurface again, and she has no idea what he'll do if he does.